Good evening. I'm Dr. Fred Rouse, the Real Money Doctor, and it's currently 7 o'clock on Thursday, July 23rd. And I want to touch base today on today's daily events that affect the way you get, protect, and enjoy your money, your life, and your retirement. Now, the question for today is, what are the numbers from last week? And we'll get to that in just a few minutes. Right now, I wanted to touch base on the COVID situation. Again, that's the main driver of everything that's going on in this country. The world's looking on laughing, and we're trying to muddle through this mess. Right now, the current cases have topped 4 million cases. Over 4 million cases have been diagnosed so far in the U.S. Okay, that's up 84.5 thousand cases, 84.5 thousand cases from yesterday at this time. Now, the current number of cases that have recovered is basically still at 30%. The overall people that have actually died from COVID of the diagnosed cases is still sitting basically at 4%. The deaths right now are at 144,000 and 32 basically. 144,000 people have died so far. California's taken the number one spot just this week. Okay, there right now, their total is 424,000 people have been diagnosed. They're up 15,000 cases since yesterday. 15,000 cases. Their deaths right now are at 8,053. So another 110 people have died in California since yesterday. New York, which was the epicenter for the longest period of time, okay, is now at number 2. They're right now at 409,000, almost 410,000 cases that have been diagnosed. They're up at 811 cases since yesterday. Their deaths have remained relatively stable, but a little bit of jump yesterday. Right now at 32,594. So they had 68 people that died from COVID since yesterday when we spoke last. Now Florida's got the number 3 spot. They're not having a good time at all. Texas has got number 4. New Jersey's sitting at number 5. Illinois is at number 6. Georgia's at number 7. Okay, Arizona also not having a good time at number 8. Massachusetts is at number 9. Pennsylvania moved back up 2 days ago to number 10. Now, things continue to heat up constantly, and more people are realizing that COVID is serious. Okay, and as more people notice, okay, even in places like Texas, that before, when you ask somebody, you ask 100 people, do you know anybody who's really been impacted by COVID? And maybe, 2 or 3 or 4 said yes. Right now, when you ask 100 people in Texas, almost 30-40% of people know somebody right now who's been impacted by COVID. Friend, family, coworker, somebody. So it's getting out. Okay. It's no longer just an East Coast disease. It never has been just an East Coast disease. But it took a while for the epicenters to be moving along, for the peaks in the individual states to be moving along. And because we're Americans and we don't want to hear from anybody, we want to do things our way, it's taken a while, and now the numbers are surging all over the place. Now, again, the United States has reached that milestone of 400 million COVID cases, doubling the number of infections in just the last 6 weeks, as deaths, hospitalizations continue a sharp rise in many states. Despite the rosy outlook painted by the president at his latest White House briefing, almost every metric shows how badly America is losing this fight against this virus. It's basically our own fault. Okay, this is a strange presidency. Most presidencies try and unite the country. Okay, there's an election season, and it's us against them, but everybody was still for America. And then once the president gets elected, oh yeah, I'm the president of all the people, let's try and govern all the people, and let's all get together. That didn't happen. Okay, to this day, that hasn't happened. This president continues to try and divide people, pitting one group against another group, always trying to blame somebody else for the problems. Now, right now with COVID, the positivity rates are at amazingly high levels in numerous states. Hospitalizations are soaring. More than 11,000 new cases were reported, just across the United States on Wednesday by itself, marking the first day, since May 29, that the daily counts really exceeded that number. Now, Texas alone reported a state record of 197 new fatalities. This is Texas. It's a big state, and they thought they were pretty much immune from things. Things are happening all over the place right now. Now, as deaths from the virus continue to climb upward since June, the troubling trend really continues, and really gives credence to the experts who expected, fatalities would increase as the surge of infections happened. Well, with cases and hospitalizations and deaths now mounting in many areas, governors in Ohio, Indiana, and Minnesota just yesterday joined the growing momentum. They were actually mandating face covering statewide. Now, right now, more than 30 states now require people to wear masks, as top health officials and federal leaders, including the once skeptical President Trump, reluctantly now tout their effectiveness. A survey showed that 3/4 of Americans, including nearly 60% of Republicans, now favor requiring face masks in public. The survey of 1,057 adults in the United States was conducted by the Associated Press Center for Public Affairs Research. And they did this, and right now, face masks are now mandatory at Walmart, Target, and a growing number of other retailers. For the U.S. banks, the widespread adoption has been a little bit trickier. That little piece of cloth, public health officials consider one of the best defenses against the growing coronavirus threat, could actually double as a disguise for would-be bank robbers. And this is from the old days. Banks generally prohibit customers from entering branches wearing items that could shield their identities. No hoodies or sunglasses. Masks have been, for a long time now, a big no-no. That's according to Richard Hunt, the president of the Consumer Bankers Association. Wearing a mask at any business, especially a bank, for just a few months ago would have raised a lot of eyebrows. However, the American Bankers Association, the industry's largest lobbying group, said Monday that it was urging its members to require customers to actually wear face masks. We owe it to our frontline bank staff to prioritize their safety and contribute to the wider effort to limit the spread of this infection. And that's what Bob Nicholas said. He's the group's president and chief executive. Now, there have already been recent reports of face covering related robberies at bank branches. There aren't that many bank robberies to begin with. With the economy the way it is, more people are going to be desperate, and they're just walking into a bank and give me money. However, with the mask on, it's hard to communicate that, and some of them are just arrested before they walk out with anything at all. Now, a bankers association also made it clear that broadly applicable face mask requirements are not safe or sustainable on a permanent basis. Of course, the threat of bank robberies has been fading for years right now, with video surveillance both in and outside the branches really became really commonplace. There were 2,900 bank robberies in 2018, down from 7,500 in 2004, according to the FBI statistics. Now, bank robberies are really at the lowest level in the last 3 decades, according to the American Bankers Association. So, not a lot of banks getting robbed these days. Now, in other news, Mayor Ted Wheeler of Portland choked on tear gas late Wednesday as he stood outside a federal courthouse in downtown Portland, where federal agents set off explosives and fired chemicals into the crowd of hundreds. Wheeler stood at the fence and was heckled and insulted as demonstrators called for his resignation. Wheeler had come to protest and wanted to stand with the protesters in the face of what he described as an occupying force. Now, it gets interesting because it's election time out there. He's coming up for election. I can't remember the last time They had a two-term mayor in Portland. It's a very busy city for some reason politically. It really is. So it gets interesting. Now, federal agents were actually deployed by President Trump to that city, as the president described, it's as worse than Afghanistan. But the president's descriptions don't really mean too much these days. Now, for days, Wheeler, the Oregon governor, Kate Brown, and other state and local officials have demanded that Trump actually withdraw the surge of federal officers from his city, where ongoing protests have really continued nightly for more than 50 straight days. But little has really changed. Now, video of the federal officers pelting protesters with less than lethal impact munitions like rubber bullets and exploding pepper balls, shooting tear gas in the streets and launching stun gun grenades, into crowds have captured millions of views on social media and have really incensed local lawmakers. Now, Wheeler said, the reason I'm here tonight is to stand with you no matter what. In the night that, crowds appeared to roar cheers, from the county justice system right there, the center, where the jail was located. And you got one section cheering them and the other section jeering them. And if they launch tear gas against you, they're launching tear gas against me. That's what he had to say. And that was good, but they still launched the tear gas anyway. This is the same area where a video surfaced and made the rounds of a Navy vet peacefully standing there, being illegally beaten by unmarked federal secret police that are occupying the city. His hand was broken in 2 places. He was sprayed with whatever chemicals they were actually using at the time. Now, the incursion of federal stormtroopers is not really going unnoticed at all, and has brought protest from many, including a number of mayors, like Pittsburgh Mayor Bill Petito, who said on Wednesday that he'd fight in any court any such effort to send federal agents there. Now, it didn't stop there. Now, the nation's first Secretary of Homeland Security, former Republican Pennsylvania Governor Tom Ridge, you can't get too much more right-wing than Tom Ridge, said he'd likely resign rather than use DHS forces in this way. The use of federal police presence without consent of local state officials brought strong condemnation from Ridge. It would be a cold day in hell before I would consent or agree to the unsolicited, uninvited intervention in any of my cities. That's what Ridge told a KDAK reporter. I certainly don't favor that kind of action, and certainly don't think that DHS was designed for that purpose to start with. Now, Ridge actually urged President Trump to work with state and local officials, not against them. We have strength in numbers, and unified, we can probably accomplish more than him acting independently, is what Ridge said. And then he went on to say that DHS was created to combat terrorism after 9/11, not to be a federal police force. He went on to say, and I quote, from my point of view, it wasn't designed to become the president's personal militia. So it is somewhat troubling. And that's what he told the reporter from KDKA. If he had been secretary and the president ordered him to send DHS forces to an American city, he might have resigned. Now, the economic crisis is caused by this pandemic has really entered a new phase right now. With permanent business closures now outnumbering temporary ones. In April, the nation locked down and the government bailout money flowed. And it felt as though the U.S. main streets, had been just put on pause for a little while. Everything was on hold until we beat the virus. But we haven't beaten the virus. It's gotten worse. And now, with the bailout money running out, a new report from online review site Yelps showed that the healthiest businesses have been able to reopen, and the ranks of permanent casualties have actually swelled. It's now more likely than not that if a business is already closed, they're gone for good right now. As of mid-July, 55% of the pandemic, of the closures, 132,500 pandemic closures, that Yelp keeps track of, right now, they're facing permanent closures. And they include, a wide range of businesses, axe throwing and wine tasting to cabinetry to boat dealers. And it only counts the closures that have actually been confirmed by Yelp's users for their operations team or directly reported by the business owners. Now, permanent losses are the highest in the restaurant sector, both overall and also relative to temporary closures. Retail accounts for a huge swath of the damage, as do smaller hard-hit sectors such as beauty, nightlife, and fitness. Now, losses have really been the highest in the tourism-heavy states, such as Hawaii, Nevada, as well as states where hit hard like, Arizona, Texas, and New York. So the wave of permanent closures right now helps explain why, 5 months into the crisis, the number of Americans filing new unemployment claims has remained stratospherically high by historical terms. Separate data shows that permanent job losses continue to climb, even as headline unemployment rates fall. And that really brings me to the question for the day. What are the numbers from last week? Well, it's Thursday. And every Thursday, the Labor Department puts its numbers out. And right now, this morning, they reported around 1.4 million Americans filed for new unemployment claims just last week, up from the 1.3 million from the prior week, marking the first increase in new unemployment claims since March. Right now, in the last 18 weeks, that total is roughly 53 million people have filed for unemployment claims. Now, the claims peaked in the final week of March when a staggering 6.6 million Americans filed for jobless benefits. Since then, the tally had been slowly but continually decreasing for 15 straight weeks, up until today's report that reversed course. Now, the report comes amid news of COVID surges across the country, which have caused a number of states to roll back their plans for reopening. It also comes at a time when the $600 per week federal pandemic relief payments that were set to expire this week, they're coming close, and experts feel that it's going to lead to more layoffs and more unemployment. And that's according to the Bureau of Economic Analysis. More than 20 million Americans could lose up to $842 billion in spending value that they normally spend on stores and services when those benefits expire in just about a week or so. And it looks like the only things that the Republican Senate can agree on at this time, because they still haven't come up with a new bill, is that they're not going to include a payroll tax reduction. Now, the president's trying to blame that on the Democrats. It's not. The Republicans don't want it. The Democrats don't want it, but the Republicans, that's the only thing they agree on so far, is they're in the new bill they're working on. They haven't got there yet. They're working on it. There will be no payroll tax reduction, mainly because it doesn't help to stimulate the economy. The people that are out of work, payroll tax reduction doesn't do anything for them. So other than that, there's still absolutely no agreement inside the Republican caucus as to what to do as the benefits are about to dry up in basically a week. Now, the Democrats passed their HEROES bill several weeks ago, but it still seems like the Republican Senate is in total disarray at this time as COVID is raging throughout the country. The mask debate still isn't settled. The economy is still going nowhere fast. The push by the president to open his school as the virus continues and is nowhere in sight to ending is unbelievable. In fact, he canceled the Republican National Convention, the in-person convention in Jacksonville, but he still wants you to send your kids to school. And still, federal stormtroopers are being sent to more cities. And the bankruptcies and evictions and foreclosures that are about to take place because the Senate Republicans didn't act in time. Now, if you haven't noticed so far by now, you're on your own. You really are. If after 6 months, the government still can't get PPE to people that need it, can't get people tested, and then when they do get tested, it takes them up to 10 days to get the results back, do you really think they're going to be there to help you in your retirement situation? Government was never intended to do that, but they weren't supposed to get in the way. They're actually getting in the way right now. Now, they've been telling you for years that you're on your own. You may not have noticed it. Okay, they've been doing this for a long time. They knew that the pensions were dying way back when. They helped them die when they came up with the 401k plan. Way back when, there used to be pensions. Okay, you work for a company for 20, 30 years, and the last highest 3 years of salary, they give you a certain amount of pension money. Life was grand. Well, that got killed off. Okay, times have changed. Companies don't offer pension plans anymore. It's just a small handful, anything that looks like a pension plan. And then with people changing jobs at half a dozen times or so, a dozen times before they hit age 50, they're not long enough there to get anything. So they came up with a 401k plan where you put money in and the company might match some of it. They also came up with IRAs, individual retirement accounts, telling you more, you're on your own. Then they came up with a Roth IRA. Look, you can even save it tax-free. Okay, right now. Okay, it's absolutely amazing. Okay, you were getting screwed all the way along the lines. Okay, with the tax policies and the trickle-down economics that pretty much actually ensured that the money wasn't going to go to the top. Okay, more than one to the middle. Those tax policies from Reagan killed the middle class. The whole theory of trickle-down economics, major fantasy land. Okay, if you're in the top 5, 10%, you like that stuff because their tax rates dropped from 50% down to 30%. It was as high as basically 70% back after the war. I'm sorry, World War II. Okay, so they go back a ways, but this has been happening for a while now, and the middle class can be constantly getting screwed. And you couldn't save enough anyway with that 30-year plan. You had IRAs, that's great, but you didn't make enough to put enough money into it to do anything for you. Social Security right now is not kept up with inflation for years. And they keep wanting to push the age back even more before you can even get to it. Even though, okay, if you actually rely on Social Security at all, okay, you can still be working into your 70s anyway, if your health holds up that well. If you're 50 plus, you already know all that. Okay. What you're not certain about is what you can do about it in the short window of time you have available to make any significant change in the trajectory of your retirement at this point in time. Well, let me tell you, it's not too late. It really isn't. It seems like all is lost, but it's not. It's not too late. If you make a decision, okay, and you decide you want to take charge of your money and your life, you can still turn this thing around. It takes a decision and a plan. And then you have to constantly, consistently, every day, work on that action plan to do the things you need to do. Now, I'm Dr. Fred Rouse, the Real Money Doctor. My only goal is to help you get, protect, and enjoy your money, your life, and your retirement. If you want help with that plan, if you're really ready to take control of your life and your time and your money, and give yourself the best option to save your retirement and actually retire sometime within the next 3 to 5 years with the cash flow you'll actually need to maintain the lifestyle you'll want and do the things you want in your life without ever having to worry about a job or money again, go to my site, drrousenow.com. Watch the video there. See if I can help you live your life without regrets. Okay. I appreciate spending time with you tonight. And I look forward to spending some more time with you tomorrow around 7 o'clock. Thank you.